Hello, hello. My name is Mayor Watt. That's my site. I'm the mayor of ohmtown.com and I stream here on Twitch. And after the stream, I post it over to YouTube and to Apple Podcasts. It's on Google Play Podcasts and it's on Spotify. And I might expand it over to other things. But this is the new time frame, 11 a.m. Every day for an hour approximately. I'm actually trying to get it down to a time frame that's even shorter. Let me turn down my music a little bit. You may not hear it. I think I got it turned down really low for the stream. But what I do here is I take advantage of my news aggregator that I built for myself, and then I subsequently opened it up to the public back in January. I tend to go over this really briefly in each episode because I never know who it is that's going to be stumbling across my recordings wherever they may be, and maybe they find it more interesting and will go back and look at other things and go over to ohmtown.com, become a citizen of ohmtown, and then come and visit me here on Twitch live, again, 11 a.m. every day. I used to do it at 6 p.m. That was kind of an oddball time. Good for some people, really bad for most people, apparently. And switched it to 11 p.m. and that was just kind of horrible for everybody involved, including myself. And so I switched it to 11 a.m. And so I take an hour out of the middle of the day and I go over some articles. And I've already selected the article, so I'm going to get into it right away. We're right at about 11 o'clock. And so let's get into this. The very first article is in the Word and Tech channel. That will eventually focus on some topic, and all of its articles, all of the articles that will be talked about during that particular show will focus on that particular word, whatever the topic is for that particular episode. And maybe it can be expanded to having kind of like a story arc where a bigger picture is painted. But for the most part, it is just one location of news aggregation out of 50 that are available at ohmtown.com. Sometimes I take some offline while I'm doing work, but for the most part, they're all available. And if you are looking at the stream or the recording on YouTube, you'll see that there are 6 main categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. And within them, various other channels with a particular niche topic. Well, this one is the Word in Tech, and the title of this article is Sega is reportedly working on big budget reboots of Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio. The snippet that my aggregator has grabbed is Sega has reportedly started work on big budget reboots of 2 cult titles, Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, according to a report from Bloomberg citing people familiar with its plans. The Japanese game giant wants to create new games that can become global hits like Fortnite and deliver recurring revenue. So, how to say that this is a money grab without saying it's a money grab? There's your paragraph. It says Fortnite, of course, has built its success on a number of attributes. It's cross-platform, free-to-play, generates money for publisher Epic through the use of cosmetic microtransactions. Bloomberg doesn't state that Sega is following this mold exactly, but it's hard to know how you'd create a Fortnite-like hit. I think the idea of creating a Fortnite, and this is me talking, not the article. I think the idea of consciously creating a cult-like following around a game is almost impossible. You can't spend, even Fortnite wasn't constructed to be what Fortnite is today. Fortnite actually had building in mind. Now it's just a tactical or strategic feature, not really kind of the end all be all. Fortnite really is a first person shooter. You're going out and eliminating the other players or teams because that is what it became, not what it started. So cloning it is just going to kind of take away from the real objective, which is creating a quality game. So I hope Sega builds something that is unique and still compelling, like Fortnite is to the players of Fortnite. Like I can't get into Fortnite. It's just not my style of game, but Royale games really aren't my style. I like builder games and RPG style games, but at any rate, let's click the link. It'll take us over to The Verge, and James Vincent is the author. There's a screenshot here. It says that it's a Jet Set Radio HD screenshot, and I mean, if it's a game that is hyperkinetic and engaging and competitive, right? Like I love this game called Rounds, but for whatever reason, the company that makes Rounds, and it escapes me right now, they're not interested in really making Rounds bigger and better. It's kind of a side project, and it very rarely gets any attention. And it has its own issues. But I think that is a great, fun, hyperkinetic game with a lot of strategy, um, and even could have microtransactions and whatnot. But it isn't as immersive as a game like Fortnite. Jet Set Radio could possibly. Um, I'm not sure how Crazy Taxi would, but this article over at The Verge goes into greater detail. And like all of my shows, I am here to encourage people to go over and read the actual source. Sometimes shows talk about the material, but don't necessarily encourage people to go over because they talk about it in a more comprehensive way. But I go over about 20 articles in each episode. Um, and to keep it under an hour, I just want you to go over and read more about it. While my summary and my overview and my opinion on it might be sufficient, if you agree with me. It says here at the bottom of the article, both titles are much more focused on gameplay than story, but Jet Set Radio's use of factions and competitions seems particularly well suited for the sort of mass participation multiplayer that has helped make Fortnite so popular. And who knows, perhaps a reboot of Crazy Taxi will mean a new theme song from The Offspring. That would certainly get the attention of anybody who played these titles on release. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But it looks like Jet Set Radio might be something to evolve into a Fortnite-like game. And anybody saying, hey, let's create a Fortnite-like game is looking for a lawsuit. It just seems like you're setting off an alert to, hey, ready the attorneys, because if it's too close to Fortnite, who knows? Anybody can bring a lawsuit for any reason. So let's go on to the next article. This is over in Smack Talk. Foxconn's largest. Oh, you know what? I didn't put the URL in chat, so it'll be in the show notes on platforms where there's no video and there's no chat. So YouTube will have it in the notes of the video, but here on Twitch, it's in the chat. And Twitch only allows me 14 days of storage, so everything moves over to YouTube really fast, at least until I make partner or I find out what else. I'm not sure what else is available to me other than this time-limited archive. Well, anyway, the next article is here in Smack Talk, and it's titled Foxconn's largest iPhone plant escapes COVID lockdown. Coronavirus quarantine imposed in Zhengzhou, China, has not affected Foxconn's facilities. The single largest iPhone production line in the world, Foxconn's China plant continues to, well, not Foxconn, but China has lockdowns that are kind of rolling throughout the country, locking down various locations as COVID infections spring up. Unfortunately, that that's going to continue to impact production. This article is over at appleinsider.com, and it's written by William Gallagher. I think it's just going to continue. It says here, according to Bloomberg, again, that's the source for Apple Insider's article. Reaction to a spike in coronavirus infections in Shanghai included Zhengzhou implementing a quarantine late on Friday, April 15th, and Zhengzhou is over 550 miles from Shanghai, but as of April 18th, local authorities have ordered mass testing. And it's compulsory. You can't bow out of it. So it says, Bloomberg says that Foxconn managers have told local news outlets that production is continuing with 200,000 workers. Wow. Again, at some point, automation is going to take over. I keep talking about this in my streams. I talk about this when I'm consulting. I talk about this in other areas. If it is possible to automate your series of steps, you will eventually get replaced with a machine. And that's because a machine can't be, although you can sit there and say, well, computers can get viruses. Well, yes, but it's a whole lot easier to fix a virus infected computer than it is to fix a virus infected human. Just stating that seems silly, right? But a lot of people will argue that computers can get infected. Yeah, sure, but I can format and reinstall. It's a little bit more difficult with a human to format and reinstall. But anyway, Foxconn will probably automate as soon as it figures out if it's more cost effective to remove the human from the processes. I can't imagine that humans are cheaper than the one-time deployment, the sunk cost of machinery. So let's continue on. I'm not condoning it, by the way. I just don't think that business cares that you're a human. They are dispassionate. Big business typically is not a compassionate entity. The C-suite and stakeholders and boards literally mandate profit over human compassion and understanding. If it were anything other than profit, there wouldn't be income disparity between the highest and lowest paid in the company of such great level. Yes, there would be, because you are valued as an employee based on the benefit to the company, and what your production, what your work output is. And so you end up with people that are making $15 an hour here in the States, literally walking through the same doors as somebody who's making 250 million, plus their additional stake in stock and other benefits. Yet one is actually the gear that makes the company work, and the other is leadership who marginally improves the operation of a business. When it's a mega corporation, there's plenty of competition that you can pull into the leadership role, and some are more effective. Yes, I get it. Believe me, I get it. I consult with companies all the time, but there's a lot of talent out there, and hundreds of millions of dollars for being able to communicate with a supply chain and direct levels of people that are equally capable below. Just seems out of band to me. But The next article here is in the Word in Tech, and it says women are quote unquote running with leaded shoes, end quote, when promoted at work, study says. So it says promotion at work has greater emotional benefit for men than women, says a new study on gender and workplace emotion. So this is a phys.org article. It's written by University of Cambridge. And it says here, women and men feel different at work as moving up the ranks alleviates negative feelings such as frustration, less for women than for men, says a sweeping new study on gender differences in emotion at work. And the study was led by researchers at Yale University and co-authored by, I don't know how to pronounce that name, Joshin Menges at Cambridge Judge Business School. Wow, I have not heard of that one. Judge Business School. Finds that rank is associated with greater emotional benefits for men than women, and that women reported greater negative feelings than men across all ranks. Yeah, I witness this all the time, and it's it's systemic. Women tend to be marginalized in many sectors, except for ones where people have been led to believe that that's where women are suited, right? It makes no sense to me, zero sense to me, because you have a range of people that can do anything anywhere. It doesn't really matter, but society tends to accept where people go. So nursing women are the standard, right? Um, or referred to as traditional in when you're talking about demographics, when you're talking about psychographics, they are the traditional body in nursing. To me, it's kind of absurd. It's to the level where men get paid a premium for entering the nursing field. No idea why. In business, it's men who are the traditional, to the point where we analyze how to manipulate the money you spend and the policy and procedure to try and pull the non-traditional level up. And you can't see my hands until I raise them up. So sorry about that. I'm actually waving my hands around down here like I'm trying to fend off a bee. But you're not seeing it. You're just seeing my shoulder. So I might look weird in the video. You can't tell in the audio, so maybe I should just keep quiet and keep going. But at any rate, the idea here is we need to understand as a society and as an enterprise what it is that's actually affecting change, and figuring out why men get greater emotional benefits than women from moving up in rank or being given leadership positions. But I think it's even more nuanced than that. I think it's just some people, while you might have stats that say a great number are don't get emotional benefit, I think it's very subtle. Some people get great emotional benefit from moving up in rank or being given greater authority. But it'll be an interesting article that gets followed up on. And the results were published in Sex Roles, a journal of research. And says, tie the different ways women and men experience emotions at work to underrepresentation at every level of workplace leadership. Yeah, and I think that there is very little research that's been done, at least on workplace emotions. For the most part, people are considered cogs in in the machinery of business. But that's larger businesses. I think more research would need to be done. Smaller businesses have much more emotional connection. Even a big business that has smaller um, organizational units, like food franchises, they have great bonding and emotional connection. Um, just the other day, I was in a pizza restaurant that's a franchise, and the people there were very, very close, based on the conversations that I was having with people. And although it's anecdotal, I've seen the same type of thing in other large organizations that are broken out as franchises. So the hyperlocal is very connected. And when somebody gets a promotion or somebody gets some benefit, everybody is cool with it, and everybody is happy for everybody, and even the person that's getting the promotion is happy about it. But what I was told was, an auditor from the overarching company came into the pizza place and said, "You need to change all of this stuff, and people need to do this." And it was very cold and callous, is how it was described. Hey, Dunk, how are you? If you here, I can't really do it. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can do this real quick. Sorry, hold on. um, uh, um, okay. So I don't know if there are people that are people coming into my chat. Hello, hello. Um, oh my gosh. Um, let's see here. Oh wow, hello. Wow. Oh my gosh. Hello, everybody. Wow. Oh my gosh. Welcome to ohmTown. Uh, wow. I don't know what to say. This is just going to keep on happening, isn't it? Well, thank you very much, Dunk. Really appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Oh, thank you for the follows. Oh my goodness. Deck, Mr. Right? Hopefully I'm saying all of these names right. Mr. Vanera, DJ Tarjan, Dreadnought Camo, thank you. Oh my gosh. Uh, I'm gonna lose track. Uh, Thank you for following, Milo. Silva, or do you go by Crow? I'm not sure. Let me know. Uh, okay, I know that blah 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 shades said that everybody calls them shades, but I'm gonna call you blah blah because I love it. Um, Thank you, TJ Fork. Thank you, Maverick. Silva, got it. Arcadia, awesome. Thank you for following. Oh gosh, what do you guys want to talk about? What do you all want to talk about? So see, I hear the alerts. I don't know if you all are hearing the alerts. Thank you for making that happen. Really appreciate it. Um, so so thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. Everybody is a member of ohmTown, and the way that this works is I go over news that I select from my aggregator, and I'll show you. I'll take you to the front page. So this is a site that I built, that I use for my business and for what I do when I'm not streaming. And yeah, so I'm a strategic management consultant. I help people solve problems in their business. I'm an educator, and I am doing this now as well. So I do this for about an hour out of the day, and I plan on expanding. And yes, I go over, and if you want to, you can go over and see past episodes on YouTube because Twitch only allows me 14 days. But the way that this works is I set up a news aggregator because I consume about 200 news sources a day. And it got really frustrating for me going to all of the locations. So I built this. And the way that it works is it takes these news articles and throws them into 6 main categories: create news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. And then in those, it filters them down into shows that I want to bring to Twitch. Thanks. Hey, Gerald, how are you? Thank you for coming again. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, my shirt, I tend to wear shirts that cause people to either tilt their head like somebody blew a dog whistle, or they all start giggling. I have one shirt that says, revenge is beneath me, but accidents do happen. And I've had people stop me and reread that, like they were trying to figure out, hey, should I be worried about this guy walking down the street? Um, but anyway, so so that's how this works. I take about 20 articles, and I've actually gone through several of them already. So here's one about Sega. Here's one about Foxconn. Yeah, I like that. That one's pretty good. One about women and equality, and I'm just now landing here. Um, but I was just on. So, and what I do is my education and my career has focused on merging three things: business, technology, and society. And so I talk in that framework about these 20 or so articles that I've grabbed from my aggregator. And I do this every day, 11 a.m. And then from there, I basically, without putting too fine of a point on it, I have to go back to work because I do this in the middle of the day, at least now. So if you are interested, stick around and we can talk as I go through this. Feel free to ask questions or comment. I try to be interactive, and in a couple of months, I'm going to be doing this for a longer period. I'll do my show and then I'll be hanging out. And so I'll be spending about 8 hours a day streaming in a couple of months. That's my plan. So on with the show. Let's see where we go. This next article is in the Marble channel, and it's about plant-based patties. It says plant-based patties, lab-grown meat, and insects, how the protein industry is innovating to meet demand. And it says here, as demand for alternative protein sources grows, Australians are increasingly looking for options that are healthy, sustainable, and ethically made. So go over to the news source, and it's over at phys.org, and it's written by Catherine Wynn. And the article is written by Catherine Wynn and Michelle Colgrave at The Conversation. And this is another news source, theconversation.com. And it says here, at Cicero, we have produced a protein roadmap to guide investments in a diverse range of new products and ingredients. We believe plant-based patties, lab-made meat, and insects are just some of the foods set to fill Australian fridges by 2030. And the roadmap sketches out the foundation for the future of greater choice. So DJ Tarjan says, lab-grown meat is the future and should be something everyone should embrace. No need to kill animals for protein nor waste huge amount of resources to make it. I agree entirely. In fact, I think that vertical farms will benefit, and I think more vertical farming within cities and towns instead of having concentrated owners of food production will lead to greater production ultimately, and regional. So if there's one catastrophe somewhere, it doesn't lay us low. For instance, Russia invading Ukraine has affected entire countries in the region simply because of the impact of the conflict, right? And so now everybody is saying, oh, well, we have to kind of placate this Russian invasion. But if everybody had silos of food production in their region, this wouldn't have impacted anybody. But you also have to have a society that embraces it and doesn't see it as a business threat or a power threat. And that's a sociological thing that has to change in the world. So whenever I bring up things like that, people tend to say, "Oh, you're being a little bit too hugs and bubbles." People are like this, and that's not entirely true. We are how we manifest ourselves, and so if society doesn't allow this kind of stuff from happening, we want to be the solution we want in the world. Starting up a vertical farm in a city, you can produce a tremendous amount of food. Yeah. Be self-sustained. Everyone can't live on service or academic stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so I actually grow my own lettuce in my basement. Because in my particular household, going to the store and buying lettuce, um, we don't go through it fast enough, and so it spoils. And we thought that it was wasteful, and so we spun up our own little micro grow here in my basement. And It's relatively cheap. It's cheaper than going to the store. It just takes a little bit of labor, and that happens, twice a day. Once in the morning to make sure everything's watered, and once at night to make sure everything's going smooth. And about 5 minutes a day. But we're definitely going to trend towards removing the the animal from it, because it's just, as populations grow, it becomes unsustainable. And damaging to the environment. So let's continue on to the next article. This is in the Daily News Show, which is this. Yes, mushroom growing is huge, by the way. And depending on the rarity of the mushroom, it's very, very lucrative for small businesses. And you can do it anywhere. Grow it right out of a bucket. It's spectacular. You just have to be careful that spores don't bloom and get sucked into your air conditioning. Then it can become a problem. Maybe. Depends on the humidity of the house. So even growing them at home, you can do it, and it's really inexpensive, and mushrooms are delicious. So what do you think? The Daily News Show is the channel for this article. Large alligator saunters through Florida neighborhood. Here in the States, we don't tend to have animals like this wandering around. It says here, sheriff's deputies captured video of a large alligator crawling through a front yard in Florida before making its way into a community lake. I've always found these really interesting. I don't know why this is the video that this article has, but okay. So this is an ABC News article, and it's by the Associated Press. I'm not sure what's going to come out of this video, so let's see what happens. Yeah, no. I'm not going to play that video. And I tend not to play video here. I focus on the information itself. If you are so interested in an article, then I encourage you, and I do this regularly, I encourage you to go and read more following the link that I throw in chat. So I typically just do this. And then you can actually follow that link, and it'll be in the show notes over at YouTube and in the podcast itself, because this is a podcast as well. That's why I actually say all of the things that I'm saying, like the source. This is an ABC News article, and it's from the AP. There's no name for the author. And so let's see. The gator was 10 feet long. I did a thing called an eco run once, from one side of Florida to the other. And the very first day of the eco run, when everybody was getting ready to do it, I opened up my hotel room door, and right there, not maybe 10 feet away, an alligator. So, hey, Dunkster, was great to catch you, bud. Very interesting stuff. Thank you. Wait, you eat? Huh. I thought don't streamers survive on the stream itself? In bits? No? Guess I'm doing it wrong. Well, take care. Thank you again for the raid. Really appreciate it. Oh, there's the tinned meat. Yes, I see. That's right. Yummy. I'm going to go and get my tinned meat too. Not yet. I have a little while to go. So I'll continue on with the next article. The next article is in the Stock Marketeers channel. It says Future Movers, oil pulls back from April's high. Oil futures fall early Tuesday, pulling back from highs of the month as investors weigh a Libyan supply outage, China's COVID lockdowns, and surging US dollar. So let's click this link. It takes us over to Market Watch, and it's an article written by Myra P. Seifong. And just to let you know, the way that Market Watch works, their articles are published on one day and then edited throughout the day and sometimes a week later. That's the longest that I have seen. This article was also written by William Watts, no relation to Mayor Watt. And so this is something that I've always thought was going to happen. I didn't know when it was going to happen. And I talk about it periodically, which is the profiteering that's taking place right now based on this conflict between, it's not even a conflict. I'll call it what it is. It's a Russian invasion of Ukraine. And that alone, which is significant in the locality, and because of who it is that's doing this, it's having a global impact. What I've witnessed is inflation, not just here, but around the world. And I think it is because of profiteering based on oil prices, giving a rationale for increasing prices to recover the losses that have been incurred over the last 2.5 years, except for one problem. These companies, all of these companies, oil companies, gas companies, they all have record profits. Meanwhile, there are people around the world that are getting paid pittance, yet these companies and their stakeholders are making hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars overall, simply because there's a lot of money chasing too few resources, and that's where you get inflation, except that the price increases are outstripping what normally would be an inflationary trend. So here in the States, prices are increasing for all kinds of things. And every time I look back, my research has shown that the thing that has caused it all has been the increase price in gas alone. And then because people see gas increasing, every single layer above it increases their pricing out of band. It's not a normal increase, that's just a little bit. It's greater than what you would normally see increasing your prices a little bit to recover losses. It's a really fascinating business process. So let's see. DJ says the Russians are the cause of all the gas lines from Russia, to the EU, goes through, and goes through Georgia as well. Now they demand money to let the gas go through their land. Yep. Oh yeah. And that's one of the problems. It's one of the things that I talk about as well, because I don't think that countries should rely on other countries when they're kind of predatory, right? Like you have to pay now in rubles to get gas. Can every country do a flip to green energy, solar and geothermal and wind? No, but we do have the technology to start moving towards that, except that people in the localities would rather have profits than, or I'd say avoid loaning or borrowing more. The real problem is if you paint yourself into a corner like we are right now in Europe and the region around Ukraine and Russia. Everybody who used to get this solution, now they're painted in a corner, and they literally are being held hostage. Um, so we'll see what happens, but nuclear technology is definitely a benefit. Yep, there you go. Germany kind of jumped in the deep end, turning off all their nuclear power and coal burns. Yeah. Um, but unfortunately, if you rely on a single source somewhere for a great amount, you are beholden to them and their whims. And all they have to do, it's kind of like renting from a landlord that becomes very predatory. They want to jack up the price for rent year after year after year, and you end up um, basically pricing yourself out of ever being able to move because you can never save enough. And that's kind of what countries have been doing. Yeah, Norwegian, the, several of the Nordic countries have the ability to sell oil and gas because they're in control of it. They have it. And so their economy benefits from that sale. Not every country can do that naturally. So I'm sure everybody knows that. Yep, hydro is another one. Um, so what I think is going to end up happening, and I can't speak for every country, obviously, I can't even speak for the EU, but for the United States, I think interest rates are going to keep on skyrocketing. Um, and there isn't really much that anybody can do about it because there's so much money in the system, because the government has been just pumping money into the system to save mega corporations, but really it's the middle class that powers all of this, and they're just overwhelmed by debt that they're beholden to the companies that are employing them, and they can't just transition somewhere else. And then there's a whole lot more sociological machinations there in why people are quitting. Yeah, so I have a feeling that the people who have the most won't be impacted that greatly by these processes, and in fact are positioned well to profit from it. And in a previous episode, I talk about the fact that there are new additions to the to the top 500 people, the richest top 500 people, because of the pandemic. And as we walk away from the pandemic, we've ended up with a few people making money just hand over fist. I mean, just an amazing amount of wealth generated in the last 6 months. As we open up the doors, it's opened up to higher inflation, greater costs across the board. But there are very few people that produce compared to the number of people that consume. And that's why I'm a big promoter of um, uh, I guess, locally grown everything, locally produced everything. Only the bigger things. You're not going to be able to get great amounts of lumber to build houses. Even then, I think that 3D printing would be better. But we need greater competition for everything. And this is why, because there's very few that produce, and they are reaping the rewards of mergers and acquisitions and consolidation. So this next article, I'll keep on moving on. This next article is in the Order of the Grape, which is all about wine. And they ask Adam, is it okay to request a table when dining alone? And as you can tell, I have a broad spectrum of topics that I talk about, mainly because the world isn't a silo, right? So I can't just focus on one particular thing, although I would love to and will for other shows. But the Daily News Show is really broad spectrum. And so this says here, dining alone is one of the life's simple pleasures. Just you, the food, the drink, and the great people watching you. I'm not sure if I want people watching me eat. Would you? Would you on stream want to watch people eat? I have a violent reaction to hearing people chew. So this is not a channel that I would subscribe to if I was eating on the channel. But let's go check out the source and see what it says, because I personally would ask for a table even if I'm eating alone. This is over at vinepair.com. Pardon me one second. And it says, ask Adam, is it okay to request a table when dining alone? This is an article written by Adam Teeter with an illustration by Ariella Basson. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. I totally forgot about that mukbang. One of the most popular channels in South Korea and Asian countries. Um, there's ASMR as well. Many ASMR related channels on YouTube and Twitch. I can't get it. I have to mute stuff when I'm hearing somebody like stirring and stuff. It just so it seems gross to me. Um, but there's an actual psychological term for it, and I can't remember it right now. But yeah, no thanks. Dining alone is one of life's simple pleasures. I agree. I would sit there and request a table, even at a crowded restaurant. It doesn't really matter. To me, I'm the customer, and if I want to sit at a table for four, they may perceive it as kind of a jerk move, but I'm paying, upwards of 30, 40, depends on the classiness of the restaurant, right? The exclusiveness of the restaurant. Sometimes really expensive restaurants are even more pricey, and then depending on what you're going to eat. But if I want to be comfortable and I want to eat there, I've actually stopped going to a restaurant because I asked for a table and they set me at a counter, and I'm like, no thanks. And then I reiterated. I said, hey, I want to sit at a table, and they're like, no, here. And so I said, okay. I ate only because I wanted dinner, and then I left. Um, yeah. So it says, but if a restaurant turns down your request to sit at a table, don't take offense. No, I would. They're worried about their dollar. I understand that, but I'm worried about my benefit. I want a table, then I want a table. It says the restaurant could be busier than you realize or be expecting an incoming rush. Again, not my issue. And I'm not trying to be dispassionate, but the restaurant, and I think if you don't agree, I'd be really curious why you wouldn't agree, because the restaurant isn't being compassionate. They're looking at their average ticket value, right? Here in the States, it's about $25 per ticket is the expected rate of return by anybody sitting at a table. And it depends really on where you are. But on average in cities, it's about $25. So it says here, good restaurants always do their best to ensure that diners have an enjoyable experience. Yeah, it wouldn't be enjoyable if I'm not sitting where I want to sit. Naturally, I'm not going to go sit on somebody's lap because I want to sit by a window, but I don't want to be stuffed next to a wall or something like that on the pickup counter at the same time. So I think that this person is being very considerate of the enterprise, but the enterprise isn't necessarily considerate of you unless they have time to be considerate. So, yeah, you tell me here in chat. Would you ask for a table in a busy restaurant? Would they, if they want to sit you at the bar like this here? It says, however, if the restaurant is a bit slow or never hurts to request a table instead of a bar seat. Yeah, I don't think that you should be worried about the busyness of a restaurant. Of course, what they do to your food that could be another thing. So the next article is over on the Hatch Ideas channel. The Federal Reserve, the title of this is Fed's James Bullard says 75 basis point rate hike can't be ruled out as inflation is far too high. And again, this is addressing the symptom. So what is the cause? Federal Reserve official James Bullard isn't ruling out a jumbo rate interest hike of 75 basis points this year. And this affects everything in an attempt to tame inflation running at 40-year highs. I suspect here in the States, our inflation is going to creep up to about the 12% mark. Right now it's at 8.5. And I think that by the end of the year, even shorter, I think within 6 months, it'll be about 8 point, or closer to 12. Um, so they're going to increase the rates. This is a Business Insider.com article written by Shalini Nagarajan. Sorry. And their articles tend to have like a little block of text and then some space. There might be graphics in here that aren't coming through because of the way that my browser's configured and that my network protects against certain things. But it says here, more than 50 basis points is not my base case at this point, Bullard said on Monday in a virtual event hosted by the Council on Foreign Relations. And it's kind of interesting. The processes here are entirely punitive. They're trying to put the brakes on inflation, except that what ends up happening is people who are trying to do certain things get priced out because the interest rate is too high. So it stalls growth. And it's not going to impact the people with the means to overcome this at any time. Let's take for example, Elon Musk has the ability to generate $45 billion to acquire Twitter, and it's going to be at a certain rate. Well, he can weather that storm, but that isn't going to help. Yeah, exactly, DJ. The middle class is going to be priced out immediately. You won't be able to buy a home because interest rates in the United States are already bordering 6%. When other people bought their houses 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago, it was under 3%, and now we're bordering 6 in only 3 months. And again, you look at this trend of increased pricing, and it comes at a time where we're opening doors to business. We're actually returning to the old way of business processes. So why is inflation happening now when business is actually kicking off? It isn't because money's just been idling somewhere. Where is all of this money? So it says here, Bullard said he prefers the central bank to move fast to raise rates to 3.5% by the end of this year, with multiple half percentage point rate hikes at the Fed's 6 remaining meetings for 2022. So you can see how fast this is going to be accelerating. And the consumer price index for the United States has skyrocketed. Typically, it increases maybe 2 to 3 points in a month. And actually, no, even longer spans than that. And I'm trying to recall what the last one was. I think it went up in less than 30 days, 6 points in 1 month instead of 2. So, and it's continuing to increase. So, good luck to everybody economically. It's going to cause the economy to stall, and I think end up in a recession. Yeah, gas prices have gone up. So the next article is in Hatch Ideas channel. Warren Buffett discussed his deputies, the Activision Blizzard saga, and Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting in a recent interview. And there are 4 key takeaways from this particular author. This one tends to be a longer article, so I'm going to kind of brush through this really quick. Berkshire Hathaway, by the way, has Class A shares, which are voting shares, that are somewhere around the $250,000 a share mark. Let me see if it's still that way. Oh, strike that. Wow, I haven't looked at Berkshire Hathaway in a while. Before I say what the price is, let me read this real quick. So this article about Warren Buffett is from Business Insider, and it's written by Theron Mohammed. And it might be Taryn, I'm not sure. So if you know the pronunciation, let me know. So they ask what Berkshire is buying. I'm not quite sure if they'll ever really disclose um, exactly what they're going to be buying. They might give you some idea of stuff that they've already done, like this investment in 5 Japanese trading companies. So money tends to beget money. So if you already have $1 million and you invest it and you're earning anywhere between 3 and 12%, scaling your risk, you end up somewhere around 8% interest. You can live off of the interest of $1 million pretty comfortably. And let's say uh, you're on a subway and somebody decides to give you a single share of Class A Berkshire Hathaway stock. And you're reading this article and you go, oh, well, let's look up the price of Berkshire Hathaway. It's trading right now at $522,000 a share. uh, it actually has gone up $2,400 just today in today's trading. So I won't go into great detail about this, but when you are connected and you have money, um, it it begets money all on its own, and you can rest on your laurels that you'll never have, and it's generational money, right? So a single one of these shares can change an entire life and the future of that family. Just one single share, um, and that's how concentrated wealth is. So and I get into conversations with people about how, well, that money isn't just sitting around, and that actually belies the fact that if somebody were to start liquidating their assets, yes, that money does have to exist, um, without a doubt. That money actually has to be available to somebody to utilize if they so choose. Hence the reason $45 billion is a number that a single person can throw at a corporation to privatize it, like what Elon Musk wants to do with Twitter. Um, so the next article is in the Word in Tech. Audi's latest concept car is an oversized urban EV that shouldn't be legal in cities, according to this article. Audi completed its luxury concept triptych with the unveiling of the Urban Sphere, a massive, fully autonomous people mover that somehow manages to be entirely too large for the streets it's designed to travel. Let's click this link because what I haven't disclosed is that I don't tend to read the articles prior to the show. I'll end up reading some of them after the show if I want greater nuance for discussions in later sessions or with people throughout my day. But my reaction is you actually are seeing my reaction. The Urban Sphere concept vehicle is 2 feet longer than the Cadillac Escalade. If you've never seen the Escalade, I think it's bigger than um, uh, whatchamacallit, a Hummer. I think it's bigger than a Hummer. Okay, so DJ, you said that it looks like a normal car. Yeah, so let's see. It's bigger than the Cadillac, which is huge. This car is 18 feet long, 6.6 feet wide, and 5.8 feet high. Y'all can see meters: 5.51 meters, 2.01 meters, and 1.78 meters. The fact that they don't put a human being somewhere in this picture is just horrible photography because you have no idea of scale. Let's see what else. I don't typically show all of the photos, but I'm trying to find. Oh my god! um, if you put rockets on this, it's a SpaceX vehicle, for crying out loud. Look at that. But it's a concept, so as I say, concepts are concepts. They're one-offs, and you can devote a ton of resources to them. Oh, that's nice. I like that kind of door. Except I'm actually a promoter of doors that are like minivan doors where they slide out. Um, because if more people had sliding doors, there would be less door dings, which just drive me nuts because people just don't care and they swing their door open and it smashes into my door. Wow. Wow, this is just a massive vehicle. When you can recline, I need to back up to that. When you when you can recline, full body recline, and not touch that back seat, that is pretty amazing. So let's see, is there anything else in this car? They're not going to have a price because it's a concept vehicle, but yeah. Anyway, so let's scroll back up just so you can see the title of this article. And if you are interested in it, then you can go over to The Verge and read more about it and see the pictures more. The next article is Amazon, Disney, and other streamers are embracing ads. I clicked this. I selected this article simply because I think that it's absurd. So executives at the top streaming services chasing ever bigger subscription numbers are having a change of heart about commercials. So let's click the link. It'll take us over to New York Times. And it says here, executives at the top streaming services chasing ever bigger subscription numbers are having a change of heart about commercials. So you would think, oh, well, let's get rid of commercials, right? And just charge a premium. Oh, sorry. The article was written by John Coblin and Tiffany Sue. The two titans of the video streaming wars, Netflix and Disney Plus, have long resisted commercials, showing a reluctance to have premium series like Stranger Things or The Mandalorian run alongside commercials, hawking dish soap, soda, and medications. Yeah, I think that's, let us pay for the subscription and be done with ads. But on the flip side of this, there are people that don't mind commercials because they don't have to pay $8, $15, $20 a month to get the service, and they don't mind the ads. Well, gone are the days where you can skip ads on your streams for many channels. If it is a ad-supported service, you can't skip them. For instance, the service DirecTV, which is a service that I use, if you record the show, you can fast forward through the commercials. But if you reach back into the video on demand service from DirecTV, you can't skip the ads. I'm not quite sure why that is because I'm still paying the rate for the service. But they have two different service features. So it says here, no advertising coming into Netflix, period. Reed Hastings, one of Netflix co-chief executives, said several years ago, a point of view he repeated for some time. We don't believe that the consumer experience would be particularly good if we had advertising on Disney Plus. I agree. Christine McCarthy, Disney's chief financial officer, said in late 2020, and here we are in 2022 with rumors that they will spin up let's see if I can find it. When the streaming service business started and the pricing was in the mid-single digits, there was no room or need because pricing was competitive and low enough. But content is expensive, and as the pricing for ad-free tiers has gone up in the high teen levels on some packages, and even Netflix is moving up, it has to be paid for, and so you're going to end up with advertisements at ad-supported levels. So let's see. Likewise, video advertising revenue has shot up 51% last year to $39.5 billion. Let's see, DJ, you said biggest problem with commercials is that 75% of commercials are from pharmaceutical companies the last 2 years. Not the last 2 years, you can go back. But yeah, pharmaceutical companies, I don't know of anybody who has been sitting there watching. I don't know. I want to come up with a show that would be everywhere, but I don't know of one that would be everywhere. But you're watching The Mandalorian and you see an ad for a pharmaceutical. I don't call up my doctor the next day and say, "Hey, I saw this ad. It says that it can almost kill me as a side effect, but I want to try it." It's my doctor that's telling me what is right for whatever is ailing me at the time. and I can't even begin to pretend to know the subtle differences between this ailment and that ailment and why medication should be warranted for it or not. That's the doctor's job. But here we are in the United States, just a ton of ads are pharmaceutical ads. Okay, so let's continue on. The next article is over in Bee Baby. I'm a very big promoter of makerspace type of show, websites and creations and pretty much anybody that wants to create something. And it says here that I'm going to have to hurry because I've got a few more ads, not ads, a few more articles, and I've got to get back to work. But here's a website. It's called beatinggem.com, but she promotes crafters, and Pearl Blay is the beating gem. That's this here. And she runs this site and promotes makers. And so I think that it's pretty awesome. And so I follow suit and I promote this website. I have no relationship other than I think that crafting is amazing. And people do some pretty phenomenal work. And this is actually just wire wrap, copper wire wrap. And then it's modified in some way to age it. So, and then there's tutorials. So if you are into this kind of thing, you can, I mean, look at that. That's pretty amazing stuff. And it's made by hand, you know, these are all bespoke, one-off pieces. No two are ever going to be identical. And you can either make them yourself, and again, it'll be yours and unique, or you can buy it from people who publish it over for sale on Etsy and other places. So this is sort of an ad for them, but I have no relationship with them. But definitely go over to the Beating Gem and check it out. Here, I'll even let me throw the link in here. Let's see here. And the next article is in Smack Talk. Apple's attempt to block future patent lawsuits from Zip-It Wireless are resurrected. It says Apple has won an appeal, meaning it'll be allowed to sue Zip-It Wireless to prevent the instant messaging company from launching messages-related patent lawsuits in the future. Zip-It Wireless claims to have 2 patents regarding instant messaging, and they've previously maintained that it owns the 2 messaging patents that it alleges Apple has infringed. So I have heard about this for a considerable amount of time, but it kind of stalled as far as I recall. Let me throw that in chat real quick. And if you're interested in that, you can head over to that whenever you want, obviously. Apple Insider is where this article is. William Gallagher is the author. And I don't recall the nuance of what the patent is, but I think it's about layout. Not necessarily the back end of it, but I'm not quite sure anymore. It's been a while since I heard anything about it. It says Apple argued that the way Zip-It Wireless sued and then abandoned its suits demonstrates that it is highly likely that it will sue again at some point. Oh, and so you can drop a lawsuit without prejudice and then return and file again at a later date, as long as it hasn't started the prosecution. It hasn't been seen in court. At some point, you kind of go past a point of no return, because it depends. Like if the judge starts responding to something and it's not favorable to the person who is suing, if they try to bow out, then it can become a problem. Like they're testing the water about the capabilities of their suit. Done like Apple. Let's see. DJ says, I done like Apple at all after they started being so anti-consumer with filling their phones with glue. Yeah. There's a lot of concern about the repairability of their products. It's kind of a mixed bag because the way that they produce stuff is largely automated, and it's a whole lot easier to throw a bunch of glue in and smash it all down so that you don't have to have any screws or any external components that are easy to break off or um, complex to deal with in the assembly stage. So you'll find if you were to take off the glass, if you watch a teardown from iFixit, um, the physics of it is that they just sandwich everything inside, but everything inside is screwed together with really tiny screws or pressure clips. And so for the most part, all of that glue is because they are trying to sandwich it. The anti-consumer aspect of it is kind of inherent in their particular brand of physics and the fact that they don't want anybody noodling around inside the device itself. But you don't get thin and as solid as those phones by having externally accessible like screws and fittings that allow for flex. So it turns it into a brick. I prefer repairability, but yeah, and that's it. They even price out repairs to the point where it's so expensive that it's cheaper to buy a new device than it is to get it repaired because it's so close to the new item price. But there are websites that talk about it, and other streamers on YouTube. I should just say YouTubers because they're kind of different than Twitch streamers, where they tear apart a device and they repair one single component and it's operational again. And I've done that kind of troubleshooting down to component level. The only problem there is liability. There's a lot of machinations, a lot of context that is lost when somebody only addresses the one single issue. But that's kind of a longer form conversation. So I'm not sure if Zipit will ever win on its merit, but it'll pop up again. So it says its suit to block future Zipit wireless actions and recover costs, however, failed in February 2021. It failed because Zipit is based in South Carolina, so they didn't have jurisdiction to actually sue them, I guess. According to Reuters, Apple's appeal against this ruling has now been granted. So the U.S. Court of Appeals and Federal Circuit decided that Zipit Wireless actions in communicating with Apple were sufficient to justify bringing the case to Northern California Federal Court. Yeah, so this will probably spring up again. So I will talk about it more when it comes to an actual result. The next article is over on the Mobile channel. Japan's workers rethink their priorities amid the pandemic. The country's traditional job for life model is eroding, with pressure now coming from workers who want more flexibility, autonomy, and control over their careers. Can't imagine that. I cannot imagine that. Let's see, DJ. You remember when the chaos when a printer company got taken with their pants down for having a ship with a container in it that made you call service because it stopped after a number of prints? Yeah. And that still happens. That actually still happens. Yeah. The Epson had it, and others have it. Still to this day, there are printers. In fact, my Dymo label printer is the last label printer in its generation that allows you to just use whatever labels you want. Now Dymo has a code in it so that if it's not a Dymo label, you can't use it. Yeah. Oh, and a device that ages to the point where it's no longer used or it fails after 2 years, like light bulbs, for instance, are planned obsolescence. And that's why LED light bulbs that have 200,000 hour lifespans are $25 a light bulb or more, because they last so long. It's almost one and done. I've had my Hue light bulbs in my house we're coming up on 7 years now, and I've never replaced a single one. And now that I've said it here on stream, they're all going to blow up all at once. So DJ, I might be calling you. Anyway, so this is kind of the new trend across the world about workers. They want greater flexibility. They want greater control over their careers and better work-life balance. And this is kind of the great resign, the great resignation, the anti-work movement on Reddit. All around the world, people are just kind of getting burnt out by the oppressive nature of employment, where you have to work 8 hours, but you're not reaping the benefit other than marginally a a paycheck. And then the people can just fire you because they don't like your attitude or whatever it might be, particularly in the States. Every state in the US is at will. So both the employer and the employee can just walk away at any given moment. And so in the culture, our culture has built it into the system that there's no loyalty either way. Well, when you are employed with a kind of a mindset of job for life, the expectation is that you can be assigned anything at any time and you'll just keep on task. You'll work. And that pales in comparison to other locations where you don't even have that as an opportunity. Either you work or there's something other oppressive in nature that's going to be coming your way because you're being told to work. So in many places, it's kind of a count your blessings kind of thing. But hopefully, society changes and we get a better work-life balance where we're not spending 2+ hours in traffic and 8 hours on the job, only to come home and only have 4 hours to really exist as a human being before having to sleep for 8 hours because you have to get back on the road and do it all over again, only to work and be happy that Friday came around. So it's a weird dynamic that the world has. And a lot of people say, well, you're just lazy. Well, no, I appreciate my life. And I don't think getting paid $15 an hour in the United States, that's now the minimum wage. It isn't enough to survive on. So you have to live with multiple people. And I grew up like that. So, my first apartment that I had was shared with one entire family. So it was a husband and wife and her kid, their kid, I should say, and 2 other people in a 3-bedroom apartment. And so, and that in the United States, to some degree, people would go, whoa, but there's much worse in the United States. My first apartment without anybody else, when it rained, the walls would bleed water because it was so poorly made. So the next article, so let me click on that link so that I can introduce you to the New York Times. And the article is written by Malcolm Foster and goes into greater detail about this change in dynamic in Japan. Oh, and by the way, you might be interested in this. This is Ikigai. It's basically happiness in your life. They say here, or purpose for living. And it's become a buzzword. There is actually a podcast called Ikigai, and you might be interested in checking it out. I've listened to it periodically. I'm a subscriber to it, but I've only been able to listen to it periodically. And it's a really neat podcast, so you might want to check it out. And maybe it'll answer some questions if you have questions about purpose for living. But I'm going to continue on here. I got 3 more articles, and let me make sure of something real quick. Okay. All right. So here in mid-flight, the mask mandate in the United States was removed. So in the Mobile Channel, a mask mandate ends mid-flight, sparking cheers and alarm. So click this link, and this is a New York Times article. I clicked this because I thought that it was really interesting that people would cheer and be happy, and others outraged and upset. This is an article by Victoria Kim. And I think it's really interesting because we are not out of this pandemic. Yet we'll wear hats, we'll wear glasses, we'll wear gloves, we'll wear multiple layers of clothing. Yet we won't wear something that's less than less than an eighth of an inch in fabric over our faces to prevent us from getting something that has the ability not only to kill us immediately, like us, through this infection, but we can spread it to our loved ones. Yet we don't have enough compassion to just wear this until the levels of infection have decreased and more people have gotten vaccinated and more research has been done, etc., etc., etc. I think that it's uh, part of society's inability to maintain um, the social context. We are all in this together. Um, and if you are in a tight space with fixed air circulation, you want to wear a mask, because although they say 6 feet is good enough, it can travel. Just like cigarette smoke can travel, so can a virus. Yeah. Hey, DJ. So as you said, kind of mixed on the pandemic. My mother got that. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, you're lucky. Because if you're living with somebody that gets it and they're in close proximity, you have to be pretty careful about it. And it's almost kind of like a landmine. You just never know when somebody's going to be infected. And then it transfers and they walk by you during that transfer. A lot of people think that, you have to touch something, but no, you can just be standing near somebody, because it's in the more the humid the air is, the colder it is. Viruses create their protein shells harden, and they can actually survive longer in colder air. And then when you inhale that cold, moist virus, you get infected. So on this flight, halfway through her flight from Atlanta to Los Angeles Monday night, Brooke Tansley heard the pilot's voice pipe up through the public address system, apologizing for the interruption, and then telling everybody the mask mandate has been moved. For some travelers, Monday evening's announcement from the TSA that it would stop enforcing a mask mandate after a federal judge in Florida struck down the requirement came as they were already on their way in airport terminals, on the tarmac, or even in the air. So this will maintain as litigation continues. I suppose mask mandates will continue. And it's up to the state. I think federally it will become an issue, and it'll end up in higher, ever increasing courts until it's at the Supreme Court. Let's see. My brother had it, and his son not vaccinated either. He's a taxi driver, and his son works. So about the virus, huh? Works in a food store where they've been doing that for 2 years. Only now they got Omicron and had a flu for like 2 days. Yeah. And this is a coronavirus is a flu, so it's going to it gets treated like a flu, but because of the damage that it does to lungs, that is the big indicator that it is coronavirus, other than the testing, obviously. But a flu you can kind of work past unless you're immunocompromised, but um, having an actual coronavirus infection, it does damage to the alveoli in your lungs, and it also does other damage throughout your body, but the most apparent is the damage to the lungs. Yeah. Oh, really? I haven't heard that it doesn't go, Omicron doesn't go. I'll have to look into it. So I've got two more articles. This one is in Wanted. It's a channel about tech that is new or intriguing. Logitech's Lift is a vertical mouse that's easier to grasp. With shockingly tall stature and non-traditional curves, vertical mice require some adjustment to use. I'm going to click this link and take us over to arstechnica.com. Sharon Harding is the author, and this is a vertical mouse. And yeah, so the way that it works is kind of like a trackball, except that the ball is still underneath. It's just that you hold it in a different ergonomic shape. And I've I've switched entirely away from mice. I It's better ergonomics to use a trackball. And yeah, so yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a sideways mouse. And so when you rest your hand on it, you actually rest your palm in this little vertical angle, and your hand, to me, whenever I've used a vertical mouse, my hand kind of drags down the side, and then I end up resting it on the desk. Um, and so I've moved away. I don't even like vertical mice, but I like talking about it because it gives me an opportunity. My bias is real. I am a trackball person, and so I use I used to use a Microsoft trackball, but now I use the Deft Pro. I completely forgot who the maker of it is. My gosh, my brain just fell out of my head. I'll find out right now. Elcom, that's right. Elecom makes the Deft Pro, and I modified mine with ceramic bearings. And so it's basically a mouse laying on its side, and you still have to slide it around. And so I don't really get these mice, but trackballs I think are great. Unfortunately, like split keyboards, trackballs are not really popular for whatever reason. So this vertical mouse is $70. Yeah. So DJ says, prefer a normal mouse since your hand rests over it. Yep. Most people do. You just need a good chair so your arms are at the right angle. Yeah, I've got a Aaron chair. So, and if you, both of those statements by DJ, I think everybody should heed. You should get a quality chair. Don't get a cheap one because it might be cheap, but you're going to replace it sooner than a quality chair. If you have to spend, $600 on a chair, do it because you're going to use it longer and not have to replace it. It won't get as uncomfortable as a cheaper chair, and it typically has greater ergonomic flexibility. So, yeah, Embody is another. So, okay, that's that one. And then the last one is about a 3D printer. So I use various 3D printers myself for rapid prototyping. This is one that I'm looking at right now. I don't know if I'm actually going to pull the trigger on this one, but it's a Kickstarter. The article was stashed into Warcrafters, probably because of the source of it, which is PC Gamer. So yeah, that makes sense. It's a 3D printer. It's supposed to be faster than other 3D printers, and you'll never guess who it's made by. I don't think it says it here in the article off the top. Nope, it doesn't. So 3D printing has to be one of the most futuristic pieces of tech around, even more so now that it's made its way into the hands of regular consumers. It's been in the hands of regular consumers for a decade and a half. You can take a digital file, roll a filament, and turn it into just about any shape you want. You can turn it into any shape you want, not just about. I don't know of a single shape that you can't make. It just has to scale the right way. So I'm not going to be making carbon nanotubes. Yep, 3D printers are amazing. DJ says 3D printers are amazing. The 3D food printers are going to be huge once they work out the kinks. Medical 3D is amazing. They can make all kinds of stuff now for medical purposes. And the start of replicators from Star Trek. Yes, I actually love the idea. There's actually a drink maker now that uses individual components to make any drink. And I'm not talking about like different types of alcohols. I'm talking about it's the chemical components that make up actual like carbonated drink or any drink actually. I'll have to find it. I can't recall off the top of my head, but so let's click this link. It'll take us over to PC Gamer, who is the source of this. PCGamer.com is where you want to go, and Hope Corrigan is the author of the article. And this, let's click the link. I'm going to take you over to the Kickstarter itself here in a minute. So let's see if I can find it. I don't think that this is the link to it. Yeah, that's not it either. Hold on one second. So I'm going to bring you over to the Kickstarter itself because that's where they make it more obvious who the author is. So the manufacturer of this is Anchor, which blew my mind that they're making a 3D printer. So they've got all kinds of stretch goals, and the price really depends on what it is that you're looking to get. And it says cut print time by 70%. And that alone is probably the reason why I'm going to get this thing. Because the biggest time consumer in anything having to do with 3D printing is the print itself. And at one point I was trying to acquire a different type of 3D printer, and it was supposed to be fast and efficient, but it was like $65,000. And just overwhelmingly priced out. It wasn't a consumer or prosumer printer. Had a lot of disposable stuff that you couldn't reuse. But I think this is amazing. So you'll be able to monitor it through its camera. It says smooth 0.1 millimeter detail, which you can get smoother with resin printers. But they've already made their $6 million value of pledges off of a $50,000 goal. So all this is marketing to them. But at any rate, there's a whole bunch more here that you can go and check out. Let's see. The very first pledge, I guess, is it still? Yeah, they still have a lot left. So $629, which isn't bad in terms of 3D printers when it comes to the speed here. So it's definitely worth that price when it's going to cut down the time by 70%. I've seen some reviews of this. I'm not quite sure if everything is ready for prime time. I don't think anybody has said anything really negative about them. But I think making sure that 70% print time cut is realistic and not just ideal prints. Pardon me one second. So anyway, pretty neat. Maybe if I get it, I'll do an unboxing or something like that later. I'm not sure. Let's see. When is the goal delivery time? So they want to deliver it in November of 2022. Yeah, so this is nothing more than marketing because they've already got production underway. So good on them. And its retail price is $759. So DJ says, seen the 3D printing of houses in Japan? Yeah. As a matter of fact, Icon is one of the places that I've been looking at to print the house that I want. And so we're actually planning on using a 3D printer to print our house. Hopefully our next house, but we'll see. It really depends on what the market allows. And it's all about policy. Here in the States, depending on where you live, they might be more embracing of using a 3D printer, but usually there's some concern about building code. So they actually are doing some 3D printing of houses in Texas. The military is using it on a couple of Army bases. And when you're the oddball in a community, then the community sometimes lashes out, and Yeah, right there. Building rights, zoning, state laws, and so on. Yep, yep. Depending on where I end up, I'll probably do a 3D printed house because I'm just in favor of it. I really don't like wood timber houses. While they breathe and let fresh air in, they're like a sieve. They're very susceptible to degradation, whereas a 3D printed cement house is not a concern. It literally is a solid brick wall, and it's more soundproof. It's less impacted by the elements. I'm really surprised that Tornado Alley here in the States, and other hurricane prone regions in the States and elsewhere don't shift to 3D printed houses. Because what happens in a hurricane or in a tornado is the wind pulls the roof off and the walls just fall over, and it doesn't matter about hurricane straps, because the hurricane straps are holding the roof down. Well, all it takes is enough shifting, and all it just all falls apart. And yeah, and drywall's only objective is to make a pretty place for you to hang a picture and to prevent fire from penetrating into the wood framing. That is the purpose of drywall. It's entirely designed to just mitigate the flames penetrating into the walls. But eventually, everything heats up to the point where even the wood in the walls catches on fire. So um, it's all about mitigation. I'd rather have a house that can withstand 150 plus mile an hour winds, and the roof isn't going to come off because even it's attached directly into the cement framing. But um, that's for another show. We'll talk about this all more. Um, Depending on what the news articles present tomorrow before 11 o'clock, I'll have another show going from 11 to 12. We ran past a little bit, but I think it's awesome for you all to come. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow. I would love that right there to hit 100%. If you make that possible right there, 100%, I don't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do. I will start expanding my stream on the weekends. I can't during the day right now, but I've already been planning for nighttime streams, doing other things. It's not going to be news, but I love talking about topics, and not necessarily gaming. So although I am a gamer, I don't stream it, mainly because I game in little fits and starts, and it's never the same thing. I'm kind of ADD that way. I like to switch things up. So please follow me, and that'll let you know when I launch another stream. And I'm really planning on doing more talk streams, more interview kind of things. So come on by anytime at 11 o'clock every day. And then on the weekends, I'm going to be streaming more. So making units in No Man's Sky. Man, I bought No Man's Sky a while back. I've played it periodically since I got it. But it is one of those games where you have to dedicate just tons of hours to get through it. And right now, with all of my current responsibilities, I can't really spend that amount of time. I would love to. I would love to. I think No Man's Sky is an amazing game. And they're going to keep on adding stuff to it. It's weird that they just keep on adding stuff to it and not making me pay for DLC. I love it, but I really wish, this is going to be really like an unpopular opinion, but I really wish that they would produce something that makes me pay for it a little bit, because I don't want them to die. I want them to keep on producing stuff, but nothing they do is charging extra money. So how is it sustainable long term unless they're really smart and they invested all of that money and they're surviving off of the interest, like I was talking about earlier? How is this a tenable position for long term, that they don't charge for anything, yet they've piled on stuff? Yeah. Yeah, so No Man's Sky kind of fell on its face when it first launched, right? And then they picked up the pieces, not like Cyberpunk. Um, they uh, they kind of fell apart. Just wait, there might be a crypto miner in the game we don't know about. Oh, I guarantee you somebody knows about that. If there was a crypto miner in it, somebody knows about it. Um, Us security folks like to like to noodle around with software to see if anything unwarranted is transpiring under our nose. Yeah. Okay, so the way that this works is at the end of every show, I click that front page, and as long as what I've done over the day, because I work on this throughout the day, it sometimes might break it. But here we are at the front of ohmtown.com, and this is relentless. This thing is always gathering information, and it allows me to scan various markets from business, technology, and society, so that I'm better informed and I can talk to people. So feel free. You can use this as a resource now. All you have to do is go over to ohmtown.com. If you want to sign up, sign up. There shouldn't be any problems, but let me know if there are. That would be great. But most people are just using it for the articles and then following the links over to um, various sites. So, um, okay, and that's it for today. I really appreciate y'all coming. Let's see. Let's see who I can send you over to. Anybody have any ideas who would be receptive of close to 200 people? Thank you very much. In fact, you just reminded me to